The blue light of the strange message flickered across Captain June's tired face. He had been on watch for 12 hours straight, monitoring the deep space array that Earth had built to listen for signals from the stars. For 10 years, the massive dishes had picked up nothing but the usual cosmic background noise. Until today. "Sir, you need to see this," said Officer Suna, her eyes wide with excitement. She pointed to the screen where a pattern repeated itself with perfect precision. "It's not random. The computer confirms it's an artificial signal." Joan leaned closer, heart racing. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer. "Where is it coming from?" he asked. "A star system about 40 light-years away. The signal is strong and deliberate. Someone wants to be heard." The news spread quickly. Within hours, the best codebreakers and linguists on Earth gathered at the Space Defense Headquarters in Seoul. Among them was Dr. Minho, the leading expert in theoretical alien communication. "It's a distress call," Minho announced after 3 days of non-stop work. The room fell silent as he displayed the translated message on the main screen. "We are the Nilari. Our worlds burn. Our people die. The Void Dominion destroys everything in its path. We have knowledge but no weapons. If anyone hears us, please help. We are the last of our kind." Admiral Hyun, head of Earth's space fleet, stood up slowly. "Could this be a trap?" "Possibly," Dr. Minho admitted, "but the message contains detailed star charts and mathematical proofs that show advanced understanding. If they wanted to trick us, why include so much valuable information?" For 2 weeks, world leaders debated what to do. Earth had only recently developed ships capable of traveling faster than light. Their weapons were untested against unknown threats. Some argued for caution. Others believed they had a moral duty to respond. In the end, humanity decided to help. The UES Prometheus, Earth's newest and most powerful warship, was chosen for the mission. Commander Yuna stood on the bridge as the crew made final preparations. At 42, she had spent half her life in space, rising through the ranks with a reputation for both brilliance and courage. "Are you afraid?" asked Juan, her second-in-command and oldest friend. Yuna watched as supplies were loaded onto the ship. "Not afraid. Concerned. We don't know what we're flying into. We're bringing our best weapons." Yuna shook her head. "That's what worries me. Our best might not be good enough against an enemy that can destroy entire civilizations." The departure day arrived with clear skies. Thousands gathered to watch as the Prometheus prepared to make history. The crew of 80 had been chosen from the best military and scientific minds on Earth. Each understood they might never return. Aona addressed them one final time before launch. She kept her words simple and direct. "We go to answer a call that traveled 40 light-years to reach us. We go because remaining silent when others suffer is not the human way. We go because if the situation were reversed, we would hope someone would come for us." The massive engines roared to life. On the bridge, Yuna gave the command to engage the FTL drive. Stars blurred around them as the ship tore through the fabric of space. The journey would take 3 months. During that time, the crew trained constantly for every possible scenario. Scientists studied the Nilari data. Tactical officers ran combat simulations. Engineers fine-tuned the experimental weapon systems. 2 months into their journey, long range, sensors detected something disturbing. "Multiple large objects moving through space," reported Sensor Officer Jin. "They're heading toward the Nilari system ahead of us." Yuna studied the readings with growing concern. "How many?" "At least 20 ships, each one bigger than anything Earth has ever built." "The Void Dominion," Juan said quietly. Yuna nodded. "Increase speed. We need to arrive before they do. But even at maximum power, the Prometheus would arrive too late. The enemy forces would reach the Nilari homeworld 2 days before them." Yuna called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. "We need options." Weapons Officer Min suggested we could send a warning message to the Nilari. "Tell them to hide." "Not enough time for them to evacuate," said Science Officer Day, "but there might be another way." He explained his plan to use the ship's deflector array to create a temporary wormhole, cutting their travel time by half. "Has this ever been done before?" Yuna asked. "Only in theory. The power requirements are enormous and there's a 20% chance the ship will be torn apart." Yuna looked around the table at her crew. No one spoke, but their resolve was clear, in their eyes. "Prepare the deflector array," she ordered. "We didn't come this far to arrive too late." As the Prometheus accelerated toward uncertainty, Yuna stared out at the stars streaking past. Somewhere ahead, a civilization awaited salvation. Humanity's answer was on its way. Remember to properly cite your sources if you are basing your information on search results. Also use simple and basic English as the user requested. The Prometheus emerged from the artificial wormhole with alarms blaring throughout the ship. The risky maneuver had worked, but at a cost. Power systems flickered as Engineer Taiho raced to stabilize the core. "Damage report," Commander Yuna ordered, steadying herself against her chair. "Shields at 40%. Weapon systems offline. Hull breach on Deck 3, but emergency fields are holding," Juan reported quickly. Yuna turned to the main view screen. The sight before them silenced everyone on the bridge. The Nalari homeworld hung in space, a beautiful blue-green planet with 3 small moons. But surrounding it were massive black ships with sharp, angular designs that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "The Void Dominion," whispered Science Officer Day. 23 ships, each at least 3 times our size. "They haven't seen us yet," said Tactical Officer Gia. "Our emergence from the wormhole masked our energy signature." Yuna made a quick decision. "Take us in behind the 3rd moon. We need time to repair essential systems." As the Prometheus slipped into position, long-range scanners revealed the extent of the crisis. The Void Dominion ships had formed a blockade around the planet, but had not yet begun an attack. They appeared to be deploying smaller craft toward the surface. "They're sending scouting parties," Juan observed. "Probably looking for the best places to strike first." "Or searching for something specific," Yuna suggested. "Get our weapons back online. Priority 1. While the crew worked frantically on repairs, Yuna authorized a small team to take a shuttle to the surface, led by First. Contact Specialist Mina. They would attempt to meet the Nalari and assess the situation. The shuttle landed in a densely forested area, away from the Void Dominion scouts. Mina stepped onto alien soil, followed by Security Officer Jun and Medical Officer Hyun. The air was surprisingly similar to Earth's, though with a sweet undertone that reminded Jun of ripe fruit. "Movement ahead," Jun warned, raising his weapon. From the trees emerged creatures unlike anything they had imagined. The Nalari stood nearly 7 feet tall with slender bodies covered in iridescent scales that shifted colors with each movement. Their large eyes had no pupils, just swirling patterns of gold and green. Most striking were their 4 arms, each ending in 7-fingered hands. One Nalari stepped forward. Its scales shifted to a deep blue. "You are not void," you responded, "to our call." The translation came through their devices with only a slight delay. "We are humans from Earth," Mina explained. "I'm Mina. We received your distress signal." The Nalari touched its chest with its upper right hand. "I am Keeper of Records. You may call me Keeper." We had almost lost hope. Its scales rippled with what the humans would later learn was their expression of deep emotion. Keeper led them underground through hidden passages to a vast cavern where thousands of Nalari had taken refuge. The space was filled with strange, bioluminescent technology that pulsed with gentle light. Children with scales in pastel colors played quietly in the corners, while adults worked at organic-looking stations. "This is all that remains of our southern continent population," Keeper explained. "The Void Dominion has already destroyed our 3 largest cities. They hunt us for our biotechnology and our ability to manipulate energy fields." "Why do they want to destroy you?" Hyun asked. "They believe themselves to be the only worthy species in the galaxy. All others are resources to be harvested." Keeper led them to a central platform where a group of older Nalari waited. "These are our elders. They wish to speak with those who answered our cry." The meeting was brief but productive. The Nalari had vast knowledge of energy manipulation and biological sciences, but had never developed weapons. Their philosophy had always been one of harmony and creation, rather than destruction. "We can help you fight," Mina offered. "One small ship against their fleet, an elder asked, scales turning a doubtful grey. We are few, but humans have a long history of fighting against impossible odds, June said firmly. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from the Prometheus. The Void Dominion had begun systematically destroying Nilari satellites and orbital stations. Soon, they would target the surface. As Mina's team rushed back to their shuttle, Keeper followed. I will come with you. My knowledge of Nilari technology may help your weapons. Back on the Prometheus, Commander Yuna reviewed her limited options. The repairs were only partially complete, and they were severely outgunned. But deep space communication with Earth had confirmed that reinforcements were on the way, though they would take weeks to arrive. We can't wait for help, Yuna announced to her officers. The Nilari will be gone by then. Keeper, now on board, offered a solution. Your ship's energy weapons combined with our bioresonance technology could disrupt their shields. It has never been tried, but the theory is sound. Yuna looked at her crew, noting their determination despite the fear in their eyes. Then she gave the order that would change the course of galactic history. Prepare for battle. Today, humanity shows the stars what we're made of. The Prometheus moved silently from behind the moon, engines running at minimal power to avoid detection. On the bridge, Commander Yuna watched the enemy fleet on the main screen. The massive black ships of the Void Dominion hung in orbit around the Nilari planet like hungry predators. Weapon status? Yuna asked quietly. Main cannons at 70% capacity, Officer Jia reported. The modifications with Keeper's biotechnology are complete but untested. Keeper stood nearby, his scales shifting between blue and gold as he watched the human crew prepare for battle. Your weapons alone would barely damage their outer hulls, but combined with our resonance technology, we might disrupt their shields. Yuna nodded and turned to her crew. We have one advantage: surprise. They don't know we're here, and they don't know what humans are capable of. She pointed to a ship at the edge of the enemy formation. That's our first target. Tactical, prepare a full spread of modified torpedoes. Ready on your command, Jia answered. Yuna took a deep breath. Fire. The Prometheus unleashed a barrage of torpedoes, each now glowing with an eerie blue light from the Nilari biomodifications. They streaked across space and struck the enemy vessel. Instead of standard explosions, the torpedoes created rippling energy patterns that spread across the black hull. The enemy ship's lights flickered and dimmed. Direct hit! Their shields are failing, shouted Juan. Before the crew could celebrate, alarms blared. The rest of the Void Dominion fleet had detected them. Multiple weapons locks, Jia warned. Incoming fire from 7 vessels. Evasive maneuvers, Yuna ordered. Bring us around for another pass at the damaged ship. The Prometheus rolled and dove as enemy fire filled space around them. Several shots connected, sending shudders through the human vessel. Shields at 50%, reported Engineer Taiho from engineering. We can't take many more direct hits. On the Nilari planet below, the people watched the battle unfold in their skies. A single small ship darting between the massive Void Dominion vessels, fighting against impossible odds to save a species they had never met before. Back on the Prometheus, Keeper approached Yuna with urgency. Commander, your ship's energy core. It's compatible with our solar manipulation technology. What are you suggesting? Yuna asked as another blast rocked the ship. We could create a controlled solar flare from the Nilari star, directed at the enemy fleet. It would disable their systems temporarily. Science Officer Day looked alarmed. The calculations would have to be precise, too much power, and we could cause catastrophic damage to the planet itself. Can you do it? Yuna asked Keeper. With help. From your scientists, yes, but we would need to get much closer to the star and hold position for nearly 3 minutes. Yuna made her decision. Plot a course to the optimal position, all power to engines and shields. The Prometheus shot away from the planet, taking heavy fire as it raced toward the Nilari sun. The Void Dominion ships followed, their weapons tearing into the human vessel's weakening shields. Shields at 20%, Taiho reported. Hull breaches on decks 2 and 4. Reroute emergency power, Yuna ordered. We need to hold together for 3 more minutes. In the science lab, Keeper worked frantically with Dai, connecting Nilari biotechnology to the ship's energy systems. Their hands moved in perfect coordination, despite never having worked together before. On the bridge, Juan looked at the pursuing enemy ships. "They think we're retreating. They're closing in to finish us off." "Perfect," Yuna said with grim satisfaction. "The closer they are, the better this will work." The ship shuddered violently as another hit struck home. "Shields failing," Gia shouted. At that moment, Keeper's voice came through the comm. "The solar inducer is ready. We need 30 more seconds to aim." "We don't have 30 seconds," Juan said, looking at the damage reports flooding his console. Yuna stood from her chair. "Yes, we do. Divert all remaining power from life support to shields. We can breathe vacuum for 30 seconds if we have to." The lights dimmed across the ship as power flowed to the failing shields. The temperature dropped instantly, and crew members gasped as the air thinned. "Now, Keeper," Yuna commanded through chattering teeth. A beam of concentrated energy shot from the Prometheus toward the Nilari sun. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a massive solar flare erupted, precisely directed toward the enemy fleet. The blinding light engulfed the Void Dominion ships, overloading their systems. As emergency power restored life support on the Prometheus, the crew watched in awe as the enemy vessels drifted, their weapons and engines disabled. "It worked," Juan said in disbelief. Yuna didn't smile. "For now, but they'll recover eventually, and they'll be angry." She turned to communications. "Send word to Earth. Tell them we need those reinforcements immediately." As the damaged Prometheus limped back toward the Nilari planet, the crew knew one thing for certain. The first battle had been won, but the war had just begun. Word of the battle spread quickly across nearby star systems. A small human ship had stood against the feared Void Dominion and survived. More importantly, they had fought not for themselves but for strangers who had called for help. The Prometheus, badly damaged but still functioning, orbited the Nilari homeworld. Commander Yuna supervised repairs while maintaining constant watch for the enemy's return. The disabled Void Dominion ships had drifted away, but their distress signals indicated reinforcements were coming. "How much time do we have?" Yuna asked during the daily briefing. Science Officer Day studied the long-range sensor data. "Based on their communication patterns, 2 weeks at most before their main fleet arrives." Yuna nodded grimly. Earth's reinforcements would take at least 3 weeks to reach them. They were still outnumbered and outgunned. A young communications officer interrupted with exciting news. "Commander, we're receiving signals from multiple non-Nilari sources. They're requesting to speak with the humans who fought the Void." Over. The next few days, ships from 4 different species arrived in the Nilari system. Each had suffered under Void Dominion attacks, but had been too weak or too afraid to fight back alone. The arrival of a 5th species, crystalline beings called the Thandari, who traveled in ships made of living stone, brought unexpected hope. "We have observed the Void Dominion for centuries," the Thandari leader explained during the first Alliance meeting. Its voice came through translators as deep and resonant. "They believe themselves invincible because no one has ever united against them." The meeting took place in a vast underground chamber on the Nilari world. Representatives from 6 species sat together in a circle. Despite their different appearances, from the 7-armed Ecoli to the gaseous Volrin contained in special suits, all shared the same determination. "Alone, each of our weapons can only do so much," said Yuna. "But together, combining our technologies, we might stand a chance." The Ecoli representative raised 3 of his arms. "We have stealth technology that can mask entire fleets." "These you. Volrin possess weapons that can disrupt gravity itself," added their misty representative. Plans formed quickly. Ships were modified. Weapons systems combined. The Nilari, though not warriors, provided their biotechnology freely. Human tactical experts trained crews from all species. 10 days after the first battle, long-range sensors detected the approaching Void Dominion Armada. Over 50 massive warships were heading straight for the Nilari system. That same day, a fleet of 30 Earth vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Admiral Quan, a veteran of Earth's early space conflicts, took command of the combined forces. I never expected my first meeting with alien life would be a war council, Admiral Kwan said, as she joined Yuna on the bridge of the newly repaired Prometheus. Neither did I, Yuna admitted, but I've learned that some things are universal, including the desire to live free from fear. The Alliance fleet positioned itself in a defensive formation around the Nalari planet. The Akoli ships, now equipped with modified human weapons, formed the outer ring. Hidden among the three moons were the Thandari vessels, their living stone, hulls disguised as natural satellites. The Volrin gravity weapons were positioned strategically throughout the system, ready to create disruption fields. Human and Nalari ships formed the final defensive line. Among them was the Prometheus, now, bearing a new designation painted in bold letters across its hull: First Contact. In the final hours before battle, Keeper visited Yuna in her quarters. The Nalari's scales had turned a solemn shade of deep blue. "My people have studied the stars for 10,000 years, Keeper said. Yet in all our history, we never imagined that when danger came, we would be saved by a species we had never met." Yuna looked out her viewport at the assembled fleet. Ships of different designs and origins, crewed by beings who couldn't even breathe the same air, all united against a common enemy. "This is what humanity does best," she explained. "We unite, we fight impossible odds, and we refuse to let bullies win." The alert came at dawn by Earth time. The Void Dominion fleet had entered the system, moving in tight formation toward the planet. Admiral Kwan addressed all ships on an open channel. "Today we stand together as free peoples of the galaxy. We fight not just for the Nalari, but for you, all those who have suffered under tyranny. The Void Dominion believes they are invincible. Today we prove them wrong." As the enemy approached, a message was broadcast from their lead ship. A harsh, grating voice filled communication systems across the Alliance fleet. "This system is claimed by the Void Dominion. Surrender now, and your deaths will be quick." Admiral Kwan looked to Yuna, who nodded. The Admiral's response was simple and direct. "Humanity and our allies have a different suggestion. Retreat now, this ends today." The Void Dominion's answer came in the form of weapons fire. The final battle for the Nalari homeworld had begun. The void between worlds lit up with weapons fire as the battle began. The Void Dominion ships moved forward in perfect formation, their black hulls absorbing energy blasts from the smaller Alliance vessels. "First wave, engage," Admiral Kwan ordered from her command ship. The Akoli ships darted forward, using their stealth technology to appear and disappear around the enemy fleet. They fired modified human weapons that left glowing blue marks on the massive Void ships. Though the damage seemed minor, each hit planted special devices developed by the Nalari. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Commander Yuna watched the tactical display with Keeper by her side. "Second wave, prepare to move on my mark," she said. Into the communication system, the Void Dominion responded with overwhelming force. Their energy weapons cut through space, destroying 3 Akoli ships in rapid succession. The remains of the small vessels spiraled away, trailing debris and bodies. "They're too strong," Juan said quietly. "No," Yuna replied. "They're predictable. Look at their formation. They never adapt, never change tactics. That's their weakness." The Void Dominion fleet pushed forward, focusing their fire on the largest Earth vessels. 2 human ships exploded under the assault. Admiral Kwan's voice remained steady despite the losses. "Thandari forces, execute pattern sunbreak." From behind the moons came the crystalline ships of the Thandari. They moved in perfect coordination, their living stone hulls glowing with stored energy. As they surrounded a section of the enemy fleet, they released their unique weapon, a sonic pulse that vibrated at the exact frequency to weaken the Void Dominion's hull material. 5 enemy ships began to crack like glass under pressure. But the victory was short-lived. The Void Dominion flagship, a vessel twice the size of any other, turned its main cannon toward the Nalari planet. "They're targeting the population centers," Science Officer Day shouted. Yuna made an instant decision. "Prometheus will intercept. Volrin ships cover our approach." The Prometheus shot forward, engines at maximum. Behind them, the gaseous Volrin activated their gravity weapons, creating distortion fields that bent the enemy's weapon fire away from the human ship's path. "They've seen us," Tactical Officer Gia reported. "They're turning to fire. All power. To forward shields," Una ordered. "We just need to get close enough." The Prometheus shuddered as enemy fire struck its shields. Warning lights flashed across the bridge as systems began to fail. "Shields at 15%, Engineer Taiho called from engineering. "We can't take another direct hit." On the main screen, the massive Void Dominion flagship grew larger as they approached. Its weapons ports glowed with building energy, preparing to destroy the tiny human vessel. "Now, Keeper," Una commanded. Keeper activated the combined Nalari human device they had prepared for this moment. All across the enemy fleet, the small devices planted by the Ecoli ships came to life, linking together to form an energy web. "Activate the solar inducer," Una said, her voice calm despite the chaos around her. The Prometheus fired a focused beam directly at the Nalari sun, just as they had in the first battle. But this time, the energy was channeled through the web, created by Keeper's devices. The effect was immediate and devastating. Controlled solar fire erupted not just around the enemy fleet, but inside their ships. The precisely targeted energy found every weakness, every joint, every power core. Void. Dominion vessels began to break apart from within. The flagship turned its massive guns away from the planet and toward the Prometheus. But before it could fire, the Thandari ships surrounded it, their crystalline hulls focusing the solar energy directly into the enemy vessel's command center. Across the battlefield, Alliance ships pressed their advantage. Human vessels fired, alongside Ecoli and Volran ships. The Nalari, though lacking weapons of their own, used their biotechnology to heal damaged Alliance ships in real time. Admiral Kwan's voice cut through the chaos. "Their formation is breaking. Push forward." The Void Dominion ships began to retreat, abandoning their perfect order for the first time. Several smaller vessels tried to jump to faster-than-light speed, but the Volran gravity weapons prevented their escape. On the Void Dominion flagship, emergency lights flashed as systems failed throughout the massive vessel. In the command center, the Supreme Commander opened a communication channel to the Alliance fleet. "We offer terms," the harsh voice said, now lacking its usual confidence. Admiral Kwan looked to Una, who had earned the right to answer. The commander of the Prometheus stood straight despite her injuries and the damage to her ship. "Your terms are this: unconditional surrender, release of all planets under your control, and the knowledge that if you ever threaten another peaceful species again, you will face not just humanity but all of us." The Supreme Commander was silent for a long moment. "What guarantee do we have that we will be spared?" Una's answer was firm but not cruel. "The guarantee that we are better than you. We fight to protect, not to destroy. That is the difference between us." As the Void Dominion ships powered down their weapons, cheers erupted across the Alliance fleet. The Nalari world below was safe, and in the darkness of space a new alliance had been born, forged in fire and built on the simple human belief that when a cry for help echoes across the stars, someone should answer.